So, and with that, a warm welcome. Glad to have you with us. As promised, I have another video for you here about the interior set from DR.GLOSSY. You can get it here as a complete set and of course also as individual items. I'll also display the individual prices for each item here so you can better compare the prices, including with other competing products on the market. And then let's start here with the Holy Home Interior Cleaner. Here, the Holy Home, the most important thing in life. That's why this is also an important product. Interior care is extremely important. When you're on the road in your vehicle, there's nothing better than sitting in a clean, well-maintained car that's not only spotless on the outside, but also beautifully clean on the inside. And that's why we have the interior cleaner. It contains 500 milliliters. I've already used it a bit and can give you my direct feedback because the topic of interior cleaners isn't that complicated. There really aren't that many things you need to pay attention to here. What's important is that you stay within a pH neutral range depending on which surfaces you want to use it on. But if you want a very versatile and mild cleaner, it needs to be in the pH neutral range. And that's definitely the case with this cleaner. Plus, the whole thing is completely colorless. That means there are no dyes added here. You can already see it from the bottle. There's just a slight cloudiness because of the matte container, but the product itself is completely transparent and also completely odorless. And I give you my feedback on these points right away. So a transparent cleaner, sure, that's fine, no problem at all. If it were slightly colored, in my opinion, that wouldn't be a disadvantage at all because I have countless cleaners that are also tinted slightly yellowish, reddish, bluish, whatever. That doesn't stain the surface, nor does it leave any kind of light blue tint on white leather seats or anything like that. So that's really just a nice to have gimmick, depending on whether you want a color cleaner or not, whether that's important to you or not. Personally, I don't care whether an interior cleaner is slightly blue, transparent or whatever. Now let's move on to the topic of scent. And here I think things get a bit more specific. I have to say very clearly I find this especially interesting for those who might be a bit allergic to scents. There are also people who actually have a real allergy to certain fragrances and then react with a bit of an itchy nose, maybe even have to sneeze, and so on. And especially for those who say, I don't want any scent in the interior when using it, because we'll get to the next point in a moment. For them, this might be a really interesting thing. But it's not new. There are already cleaners out there that don't contain any fragrance. The number is extremely small, but they do exist because most people out there simply want to have a scent experience when using a product. The scent in, let's say, 98% of all cleaners doesn't last any longer than the time you're actually using the product. That means at the latest, after opening and closing the car once, and definitely by the next day, you won't smell anything from these cleaners anymore. So once again, for me, this is a completely neutral point. Whether you think that's cool or not is entirely up to you. For me, it's neither positive nor negative. If you have allergy problems, this is definitely a way to maybe reduce them a bit or perhaps avoid coming into contact with these fragrances altogether. But I think most people out there also want a bit of a feeling when cleaning, like a certain fresh scent, maybe orange, lemon, something citrusy, whatever. There are a ton of cleaners like that. That's not the case here. You can decide for yourselves whether that's important to you or not. For me personally, it's not that crucial because I prefer the cleaner to work well, be reliable and gentle on material scent. I think that's what you get with this one. Because I'm pretty sure that the basic formula for this product comes from, where is it? Here it is, the Sonax Clean Star. That would be a perfect match. If you pour both of them into a container, you won't see any difference at all, not just because of the clear color, but also in terms of the spray and foam behavior. I tested that too, and for me it was exactly the same. Whether the formula is exactly the same as the Sonax Clean Star, I can't confirm right now, but I'm quite certain that the basic recipe here is based on the Sonax Clean Star. I first have to address the comparison, because if you look closely at the price, if you make a direct comparison here, you get 750 ml as opposed to 500 ml. And if you look at the market prices, not the recommended retail prices, because when you buy a car at a dealership, you don't pay the sticker price either. You pay what the market currently offers you, and those are simply prices that are about 33% lower for the Sonax Clean Star compared to DR.GLOSSY. Now let's move on to the tools. Here the DR.GLOSSY team has a somewhat, let's say, more specialized approach. Those of you who have been around for a while, please forgive me for giving a more detailed explanation, because with the DR.GLOSSY topic, we also have a lot of new viewers who are probably wondering, what is a scrub fiber? I've never heard of that before. This here is a scrub fiber. It's kind of, let's say, something in between a microfiber, like a simple cloth, which also comes in different versions, and let's say a brush, like a textile brush or a leather brush. It's sort of a hybrid in a way. It's a synthetic fiber that is designed to be very, very fine. So when you run your hand over it, it also has a slight bristle-like texture. And even if I show it to you up close, the thing is just completely black. It's incredibly hard to show. That's why I'm just going to show you the fiber in a lighter color, because today I'm really going into more detail so you can understand exactly what it's about, and so that the newcomers out there can follow along better. Here you can see the fibers again, this time in white. You might be able to see it a bit better here, this very, very fine structure. Here it is in black. But the basic structure is the same fiber structure. These have been on the market for a long time already. Scrub gloves, scrub pads. There are large gloves, small gloves, just plain square ones, with cuffs, without cuffs. and there's a huge variety to choose from. That's why this one is called Mr. On and Mr. Off. That means for applying and for removing. That's the philosophy behind it, and every manufacturer or distributor can present it to people however they like, but this is made specifically that way. That's why it's written here again, apply, and here it says remove. Because of the shape, you can of course move it a bit more effectively across the surface when you go in here. And with it, you can work nicely around edges, and you can also fold it better. There's also a seam running down the middle here. That's also the case with many scrub mitts or even many wash mitts, so that you simply have a bit more grip at the front and can, for example, split your fingers 1-3 or 2-2 here, depending on how you want to do it. But I have to say, splitting 2-2 really spreads your fingers quite far apart. I've got 3 fingers on this side and my index finger over here, and that's actually the most natural and comfortable way to hold it. Yes, I found the right grip inside here. What I did notice a bit with this glove is that you have to stretch out the cuff here a few times, because at first it's really, really tight. And I have, well, let's say not exactly the thinnest arms, but also not the thinnest arms ever. So it's actually pretty tight up here at the front. Maybe that depends on the model. Maybe it's better for you, but you really do have to work your way into it a bit. You can see here, I can't just pull it over my hand. You actually have to push your hand forward a bit. That means it's also designed to be quite tight on the inside here. Anyone with large fingers or hands will really feel squeezed in at the front. Now let's test it with the removal glove, the Mr. Off. Here, the cuff is really at the limit of its stretchability. I really have to work my way through as well. And here, since it's noticeably thinner, I have a lot more freedom. So this is also very, very nice here. I actually prefer this version. And here, there's a bit of a difference. You can also make a microfiber cloth in the form of a glove. If you say that's more handy for you, that's totally fine. But you can also work with this part and then simply use the microfiber cloth. And now my last point before we go to the card, I wanted to mention this as well. There's also this microfiber cloth here for the detailer, and the fiber inside could also be used for the interior, but I've already shown you that. Be careful with this edge here on the side. In my opinion, it's absolutely unsuitable for high gloss black surfaces. With this edge, you're very likely to create a lot of micro scratches on high gloss surfaces, like the decorative trim inside the car. And I would also be very, very careful about using it on the display in any way. The description doesn't say that the cloth is intended for the interior, but I think it does say it's for all vehicle surfaces. Does that mean only for exterior use, or does it also apply to the interior? So my simple tip, don't use this cloth inside the car. And yeah, maybe you've already seen the video about using it outside it, and use it on any D-pillars, mirror caps, high gloss black trim, decorative strips, or the high gloss black window surrounds either. If you have add-on parts, spoilers, rear spoiler, side skirts, whatever it may be, they have a very, very sensitive color, like metallic black, high gloss black, or solid black. I would be very careful with this, because the edge can cause scratches. That's also why my tip for the interior is I wouldn't use this cloth inside. Please use a 350 or 500 GSM cloth, whichever you prefer, without an edge and with a simple soft fiber. Now let's move over to the vehicle. I'll show you a bit about the handling and give you my feedback on the 3 items. Let's get started. Scrub fiber on leather. You can do it, but it's not the gentlest option. So here's a definite tip from me. I wouldn't constantly use this scrub fiber, which you can see nicely here in the light in a leather surface. Over time, you'll end up damaging the top coat. To put it simply and clearly, the clear coat of the leather surface, there's a top coat on here, and if you keep scrubbing it with a hard brush or constantly working it aggressively with a scrub fiber, you ruin the top coat. The leather will stop looking nice in no time, its appearance will noticeably change, and you'll simply be damaging the surface. That's why if you clean regularly, I wouldn't use that on leather anymore, but rather a soft sponge to go over it. Videos on this, just a tip from my side, in the end, you can use whatever you want. After all, it's your surface. I'm just giving you this advice. What I don't like about the scrub pad here is the color, because I want to see immediately when I use a cleaning tool on a surface, whether it's a wheel brush, a cloth on paint, or whatever else. That's why, for example, we don't use black wash mitts. Have you ever seen anyone with a black wash mitt? Not me. You use the lightest fibers possible, ideally actually white, because we want to get immediate feedback. When the product comes into contact with the surface, I have a lot of dirt on it, a little or none at all. I think 4P said in his video that he likes it when that stays hidden at first, and the satisfying moment comes when we go over it here. There's still a bit of paper stuck here. That was from the center console. I think that's absolutely nonsensical, in my opinion. That's complete nonsense. We want to see right away how much dirt is on it, because I don't want to clean here and not know the whole time whether there's a lot of dirt on it or not. Turn it around, no idea, I can't tell. Clean over here, and I have no idea if I've already cleaned for too long. Have I already put unnecessary strain on the surface? Did I clean for too short a time? Think back to the video about my Alcantara steering wheel topic. I'll show it to you here. If I have a black pad there, I never know whether the cleaning is sufficient or not. That's why, in my opinion, a black scrubbing fiber is the worst thing you can use. And I also did a survey and asked you all on my platforms which fiber color you prefer. And you said, for the most part, you can see the results here that a white fiber is best suited. And that makes perfect sense. So black is the worst option you can use here. Now let's spray a bit onto the surface. I'm deliberately not spraying it directly onto the seat because I don't want to miss the other side. That means we have our cleaner in here. And now, instead of scrubbing wildly over it, since the scrub fibers do cause quite a bit of abrasion, we're going to go over it evenly and gently without applying much pressure. I'm really just gliding over it very gently here. You can also use the tips here to get a bit into these folds. But you can do that just as well with a normal small scrub pad. And I actually think that with such a large glove, it's almost harder to clean all these many transitions like here at the back. And here on the side, all these creases are actually a bit more difficult to clean with the glove because you're working with a relatively large surface area. You could try to work it in a bit here with your finger, but I think you can also see it from the coloring. Look, I didn't even reach these spots simply because the surface is too smooth and too large. That means it would work a bit more effectively here with a scrub pad. That means you really have to work it in nicely here with the tip, and then you use the corners to rub the surface and roughen it up beautifully. And that's just one point. Because of its shape, it's actually not very suitable for these gaps. It's more suitable for large seating surfaces with few transitions. Because as you can see here, even if I go over it several times, you really have to hold it sideways to get into all these little grooves. And over here, I actually use my thumb the most. You can also work a bit with the tip at the front here. So, just a short adjustment period. So, now to the point. I have no idea if I'm already done with the cleaning, how much dirt is still in here, or if the surface is still dirty. I don't know, I can't see it, I can't tell. That's why, at this point in the cleaning process, I now have to switch the glove over to the Mr. Off setting in order to effectively remove the cleaning solution from the surface. After making sure the glove is set correctly, I then use a clean microfiber cloth to carefully pick up and absorb any remaining cleaner, ensuring that the area is left spotless and free of any residue. And it really works very nicely with this piece. You can control it precisely with your finger. Look, that's something you couldn't do with the other glove just now. Here, you can really get into the crevices, the surface in between. And that's where a glove shape like this really comes in handy. So whether I do it with a cloth or with this glove, I think both work very well. The glove doesn't have any disadvantages here. You can also easily get into these edges with your fingers. It would work just as well with a cloth, but the glove is absolutely fine. You can do it either way. So now let's take a look. Everything is nicely dried. That's always very, very important. I think this seat has never really been clean in the last 24,000 kilometers. At least that's my assumption. I only got the car here with 24,000 kilometers on it. And now we can already see the dirt here. Very, very clearly. Now let's take off the tape here. At first glance, you can clearly see that this slightly shiny film here has become noticeably more matte. You can clearly see the transition here. I'll also take the camera out again to maybe capture things a bit better. But yes, you can already see it quite well here. So here we have a really shiny effect, slightly greasy looking, and here we now have a noticeably more matte surface. I hope the lighting here right now, yes, you can definitely see the transition here. Here you can see it clearly. That's why I wanted to clean the seats like this in summer. This is a fitting example. As we can see here, the difference is definitely noticeable. It also feels here, yeah, this part is really kind of sticky. There's a lot of resistance when you run your hand over it. And here it's now really nice and smooth. And I think you can also see it in the texture here. Look, there's a real dark film on here. So first about the cleaner, it does its job. And with such light dirt, it's absolutely no problem. So that's definitely fine.
This black scrubbing pad, which has been around for a while and is now also available from DR.GLOSSY, has another drawback. In my opinion, especially when we're talking about cleaning steering wheels, and the product is also marketed for cleaning steering wheel leather, it's really important to mention this as well. Namely, what happens if we have a leather steering wheel that has already suffered some wear, that isn't quite as new anymore, and is actually, strictly speaking, already damaged? We won't go too deep into leather theory now, but leather has what's called a top coat on it. You can think of this like a clear coat, and if that is damaged, worn down by improper cleaning, too much abrasion and so on, we can see it when we use a light colored scrub pad, cloth or sponge. I'll show you this on the steering wheel. It's prepared in this way because you can see it perfectly here. I take any regular car interior cleaner, spray it onto the scrub pad, and then I clean this area over here across the steering wheel, and notice nothing. So it's basically clean and the top coat is still intact. But what happens if I have a damaged top coat? Orent will talk about this in a moment. There's a second scenario. Now I'll clean over this side here. As I'm cleaning, I can already feel, whoa, this feels a bit different. This here is deep black, and there's no such thing as deep black dirt. That just needs to be set very clearly at this point. This is because this side of the steering wheel has been reconditioned or even repaired. You could actually say it was poorly repaired, namely with a product that's just a 1K product, which is basically just black paint. This black paint doesn't come off just by rubbing it with my hand, but it does come off when I clean it. And now if I have a black scrub pad, well, what do you think is going to happen? I can't see it. Here, no chance, absolutely no chance. Because if the whole thing here on the microfiber side, if it dries again and I only go over it with the white microfiber sponge, well, then I can't see as clearly anymore that this is really black, and there's not as much of it either. And when it's really dry with a fresh microfiber side and I go over it again and really clean off the very last residues, then I can hardly see anything at all. That means when it comes to cleaning leather steering wheels, there are two reasons why this can happen. Either the top coat has already been damaged or it was poorly repaired. And I can't see or recognize either of those with a black fiber like this. That's a significant disadvantage of this black fiber here.
What we have in front of us here is actually a surface that can be cleaned very, very nicely with the scrub head or the scrub fiber, depending on whether the surface is damaged or just dirty. We'll see that in just a moment. So with this unpainted textured plastic, you can actually apply a bit more pressure, nothing will happen. The small scrub bristles really do a great job of removing the dirt here, and whatever doesn't come off isn't dirt, it's actually damage. We'll see that in a moment as well. Yeah, again here, right now I can't really tell whether I've removed most of the dirt or if there wasn't that much to begin with, and I also can't see it on the scrub pad. And we can see what was dirt and what is actually damage. Here, for example, at the front, we have some very, very light scratches. That's just inevitable from shoe soles and scuff marks. They've simply damaged the surface, and you can't get rid of that. But anything that's dirt, the stuff you scrape off when getting in and out, you can easily clean with this. All right, let's move on to a brief conclusion. Back here in the hall, I think you can see the dirt a bit more clearly. So, in terms of the basic idea, it definitely works. And the scrub fiber has actually been around for several years now. So, from my perspective, it's definitely a good decision that the team chose something like this kind of surface. Whether you should release this directly as a glove, just as a single tool, in my opinion, that's more of a specialized version. Personally, I would recommend a pad that's a bit more manageable, a bit smaller, so you can get into those small corners more easily. The glove here also has this water-resistant inner lining, which I wanted to mention as well. Inside, there's also a small inlay layer so that you don't come into contact with the cleaner. That's something I actually wanted to test again, because I've noticed from using so many gloves that when the glove eventually soaks up cleaner, your finger still gets wet inside, since right at the seam here, the material is broken. That means if you work with it for a while and keep soaking the piece with cleaner, you'll eventually end up with wet fingers here as well. So this layer initially keeps most of the liquid away from your fingers, but if you use it for a longer period, the cleaner will eventually reach your skin too. It's not a 100% protective layer, but it does keep the worst of it away at first. Just so much for that. Here, at this spot, and also up front, it fits very, very tightly on the hand and doesn't move as flexibly. You saw that with the glove, it's much more flexible, but that's basically the application glove. This thing is simply a microfiber cloth you slip your hand into. You can do it that way. You have to decide for yourselves whether that brings you advantages or disadvantages. Here too, you have two usable sides. If you just want to get started a bit or just do the steering wheel, this is enough. But if you really plan to do the whole car with this or this version, it's going to get pretty difficult. In my opinion, you need more gloves then, just like you have several cloths. So this is always just for quick cleaning, but if you have a bit more dirt in the car, it will very quickly not be enough. if you stick with the system, you'll simply need more of them. And I really have to say, in the long run, that gets too expensive. You're better off just getting a 5 or 10 pack of cloths. For quick cleaning, this surface size is, in my opinion, completely sufficient. Regarding the color choice, white is perfect for wiping off. You can see exactly how much dirt is on it. And I think you should be able to see that when you're cleaning, rather than being surprised afterwards. That's why a white scrubbing fiber is always preferable. And that's also what the survey results showed here. So I think people agree with me on this, not just the majority, but actually the overwhelming and massive majority. That's why a black scrubbing fiber, especially for a beginner out there, or for someone who wants to get into car care and is now getting into the scene a bit through JP, is probably not the best option. I think it would be better if you could actually see how much dirt is on it right from the start when you're working with it, especially with the steering wheel, because that's crucial. Are you rubbing the Alcantara fiber for 10 seconds? Or, since you can't see anything, are you rubbing over the fiber for 2 minutes? White would have been much, much, much better and make the fit a bit more flexible, because it really is a little tight. As for the cleaner, if we just assume, and I'm pretty sure, that this is basically the base formula from Sonex CleanStar, for light to moderate dirt, it's definitely recommended. But if you have real stains on the seat, like spilled milk, spilled cola and things like that, then you really need to use a special upholstery cleaner. But for normal, basic cleaning jobs, this is completely sufficient and it works too. Nothing new or revolutionary has been brought to the market here. This is just something that simply works. But coming back to the price comparison, like at the beginning, it's too expensive for me. In that case, I would go for the CleanStar, quite simply because of the price structure. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Feel free to share your opinion in the comments below. Do you think it's really amazing? Do you think it's really new, really revolutionary? Or do you say, this has all been around before? Or maybe you say, I don't like it at all? Feel free to write your opinion in the comments below. You can also share your favorite products down below, what you like to use, and whether you would use this in combination as well. If you use this at home, how do you get along with it? Do you like it? Am I right with my points? Or do you say, hey Sebastian, this one fits me perfectly and I have really big hands. I'm giving you my feedback, and that's why you clicked on this video, because you want my opinion on these products. Overall, solid. There definitely could have been some improvements, and as for the pricing, you can decide for yourselves whether it's worth it to you. Until then, yours Sebastian. Ciao everyone, and we'll see each other in the next video. Until then,